Welcome to the official podcast at ContentChampion.com. Join our heroic quest to discover truly epic content. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hi folks, this is Loz James and welcome to session 9 of the Content Champion podcast. Before we go any further, I've got a really exciting announcement to make. Entries are now being taken for the first ever Content Champion Awards. You can win cash prizes for your best content. So to find out more, simply go to ContentChampion.com/awards. Now, on to our special guest. Rob Cornish is the online entrepreneur and product creator who blogs at gainhigherground.com. His innovative approach to teaching how to make an income online has been distilled into his excellent course of the same name, and his stable of products have sold thousands of units since 2010. I talked to Rob about all aspects of content marketing and product creation, and he was very generous with his time. So let's dive in. Thanks, Rob, very much for coming on today.
It's a pleasure, Loz. Thank you very much for inviting me, and really happy to be here.
Now, your Gain Higher Ground blog shows people how to start and grow an online business, and you create and sell various products yourself as well. So could you start by telling us your background story, please?
Yes, of course. Just focusing on the main things, really. I mean, I've done all sorts of jobs in the past. I used to be a guitar teacher. I worked in factories and warehouses and all this sort of thing. And I actually ended up working in the financial services industry in investments for a number of years. And I could see towards the end of that, we're going towards sort of 2010 now, that I was going to be made redundant. That's what I thought. And it was a long time coming. But I sort of began to think this in about sort of March time, 2010. So I started to look around for sort of ideas to start a business of my own, because that's something I'd always really wanted to do. And very quickly, I focused on the online side of business because, there's a number of things that appealed to me. The possibility for location independence, the low startup costs, and really the scalability. So the idea that you can be anywhere in the world and you can make sales. It's just as easy to make a sale in New Zealand or Australia or Canada or UK. It doesn't really matter where you're based. So it was all very appealing, and I delved into it a bat more. And I think the first thing I did, which is probably like most people, I went to Google and typed in "make money online," and that's when all my problems started. So, and I'm sure everyone on the call can relate to it. There's huge amounts of information overload, a lot of misinformation. You're pointed in all sorts of different directions. And that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't make any money at all for probably, I think about 8 months or something in 2010. Now, keep in mind, as I said, I was employed during during that period. And I was just doing this part-time. I was just had an interest, but I was still working at it, and I was putting in the time, but I was getting nowhere. And I was focusing on building niche blogs and getting them ranked in Google. So a lot of SEO, search engine optimization, and it really just didn't work. And I couldn't understand it because all these gurus were telling me that's what I should do. But when I did it, the results just weren't there. So really, I had quite a rough start, and I did sort of start to make some money eventually, but tiny bits. In fact, the first site that I made money with was one of my sites. I've still got it, actually. It's called tinlunchboxeshq.com. Very ugly site. It's still up there online. It's in the collectibles niche, so it's about people collecting vintage metal lunchboxes, which is big, particularly in the United States. And I say big, it's a tiny niche, okay? So, that was a big lesson that I learned, that I put so much work into that, created all the content, the site myself, but really had a tiny payoff, and that made a little bit of money, but just really, maybe you could have a few cups of coffee a month or something like that, that was the kind of money I earned the first few days. So I realized that I needed to have a change of direction. So I started focusing on, rather than what people were telling me, I looked at what they were actually doing. And the thing I could see was that most people firstly had a product of their own, rather than just a website and a few articles and that kind of thing, which is what I was doing. They actually had a product they were selling. of their own. And secondly, virtually everyone had a list. I couldn't really find anyone that was successful that really didn't have some kind of mailing list or customer list. So those are the two things I focused on. And I also learned from my mistakes that I needed to, if I was going to make an amount of money, then I needed to, a serious amount of money, then I needed to move to a bigger niche, because, you know, things like, I had lots of different tiny little niches, but things like the collectibles niche and metal lunchboxes weren't going to cut it, basically. So what I did, I mentioned earlier, I worked previously in the financial services industry and investments. I created a course about the stock market and marketed that, okay, and online, created it and marketed it. It took me a long time to create because I was, you know, it was very, I was brand new to it, you know, I just didn't know what I was doing and had to rewrite things and all this sort of stuff, but eventually got that out in 2011, and that did really, really well. Okay, I marketed that through joint ventures, and I think I have to check, but I think gross sales, total gross sales, which of course, you know, I don't get to keep all of that, but you do get to keep a good chunk. I think it was about something like $280,000.
Wow.
Okay, so that was the kind of turnaround from me, and I realised from then on that's the way to really make money. It's the amount of money you make is proportional to the value you can provide. So if you're messing around with little websites and trying to post in forums and, you know, doing all this kind of tiny stuff, then you're not going to get much back, because that's what everyone else does. But if you're willing to take a leap ahead, okay, and just put the same amount of time, you don't have to work any harder, you just have to work in a different way, and that's put the time into creating something that people actually want and sell into demand, you'll do very well. And since then, I've done all sorts of things. So I moved from the stock trading or stock markets niche to internet marketing, to software. I've done software as well, some smaller niche products as well. So I've moved on and probably created over 10 products now that have all done really well.
You've just mentioned something there that I'd call it a leap of faith, which a lot of people listening might not have the confidence to take, and that is, you know, going from their full-time job or a service providing online business like I have as a copywriter, and saying, no, okay, I'm going to move into product creation and control the whole thing myself with a list and everything else. That can be quite daunting if it's not something you've done before. I guess, though, that's the secret to success, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, and you've touched on something which is very fundamental, I think, Loz, because I've come from an employment background. You know, I literally have done, I don't know, probably 10 different jobs, right from a paper round to working in an antifreeze factory, putting bottles of antifreeze in boxes, to working I worked in a petrol station or a gas station for 6 years on and off, and all sorts of different stuff. But the thing is, with all of those jobs and what I ended up doing towards the end of my employment years, I suppose, into 2010, which was in financial services, it doesn't matter if you have a bad day or a bad week or a bad month, you'll still get paid. And that is a great thing about having a job, okay? And it's something that you don't realise until you sort of think about it or somebody suggests it. And it's taken me a while to work this out. But basically, you know, most people have that in their mind. So they know even if they have a hard time or have some failures, they still get their money at the end of the month. Now, in a business, you can work really, really hard for a long time, and the payoff could be zero, or you could even lose money. So that requires a leap of faith, which is the sort of words you said. And, you know, that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Whether they're aware of it or not, I think that's effectively what happens, basically. And for me personally, I know that it was, you know, a long time before I got into that way of thinking. So that's the thing to be aware of. And I think having awareness of it helps you conquer it, because at the end of the day, if you're doing business online, the startup costs are so small, you haven't really got much to lose at all. You know, just for a few dollars you can get started. But still, that mindset and realizing that is very, very important. So I'd say to anyone who hasn't sort of succeeded yet, who's listening into this, is just you need to take that leap of faith, not blind faith, not into something just spinning the roulette wheel. Follow a process, follow a mentor or somebody who's been there and done it before you, but you've still got to go forward and do it. And there'll be steps along the way that will seem quite scary maybe or challenging, but after you've done them, they don't seem scary or challenging at all. So it's just kind of expanding your comfort zone. Okay. And I forget who it was now, but Eleanor Roosevelt, I think it was, that was it. And she said something like, every day try and do something that scares you.
It's a great quote, that.
Yeah. And if you just try and do that, and every day do something that you haven't done before, whether it's taking a leap of faith and with something very small like signing up for an autoresponder, or whether it's hiring your first outsourcer on Fiverr or Odesk, or whether it's trying to make contact with a joint venture partner, whether it's buying some traffic, whatever it is, just try and do one thing like that every day or every time you work on your business, and you'll be amazed at how much that accumulates and pushes you forward beyond other people who will continue to go round in circles and spin their wheels.
Okay, well, let's come back to some product creation strategies a bit later in the call and flip it round again to look at the content, because Content Champion is all about celebrating high quality content and using content marketing in your business online. So if we look at your blog, can we have a look at what techniques you're using to produce content and how you get ideas for your blog posts? Does this come from your audience?
Sometimes from the audience. So one thing I do is actually have feedback surveys in some of my products, or even in my autoresponder follow-up sequence. I'm not doing that at the moment, but I have done in the past. So I'll give you an example. In a product, there's a feedback support tab in one of my products. The one I'm thinking about is Spybar, which is a software product I put out a while back. And what that does is just say, let me know how I can enhance this product, or what your feedback is, or any questions you have. And I think in there, that particular product sold well over 3,000 units now, but in there I've got probably 400, maybe close to 500 comments from people. So what I can do is sit down and just look through that feedback, and that gives you all sorts of different ideas, not just for the product, but also for spin-off ideas and generally how the customer base is thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Shane Malach was saying something very similar at I Am Impact about how he gets feedback from posters on his blog and people that have bought his products.
Yeah, well, Shane is very good. I've spoken to him a lot and know him reasonably well, and he does some great products in the software space. And that's exactly it. So whenever you can, listen to your audience. Now, if you're just starting out, obviously you haven't got an audience, so you'd be thinking, well, I can't do that. But what you can do is, if you've got an autoresponder, which you should have, so people can sign up for your newsletter, then what you can do is just put an automatic message in there and say, hey, thanks a lot for signing up. Maybe have it go out 1 or 2 days after people sign up. Say, what's your biggest question that I can help with? And then just send them to a survey on Google Drive.
Okay.
So like Google Docs or Google Drive. It's completely free, and what you'll find is over time it's like an evergreen survey, so it will build up and up and up. So you can do this right away if you haven't got an audience already. But in terms of generating content in other ways, I talk a lot about my own successes and failures. One of the things I try and do on gainhighground.com is not just talk about all the plus points, because I find a lot of people in sort of so-called internet marketing or web business sort of space just like to talk about all the plus points, and they massively overhype everything. Whereas what I do, if you look through that, you'll find some things clearly that I've tried that haven't worked. I can remember one thing, like a press release, for example, that I did as an experiment was pretty much a disaster, but I put that on the blog. So hopefully the idea is that other people don't have to go through all the kind of bumps in the road and challenges that I've had to go through to get where I am. So that's the kind of mindset of the blog. So there's a lot of things from my own business that I'm trying. And of course you can start, if you're just starting out, you can do this right away, because even if you're brand new, then you can talk about what you're thinking about, things that you've discovered, online tools and all of that kind of thing, which will really help other people. And then also, I subscribe to, like everyone does, a few newsletters and that kind of thing. And see things around the web, and I talk about those. I comment on those as well.
And I guess once the content is created and up on the blog, you've touched on this as well. You're not really an SEO fan perhaps anymore, given the changes in Google. You're looking at more direct traffic methods and social media. Would that be correct?
Well, you're right that I'm not really an SEO fan. In fact, I was consulting recently. I did some consulting with somebody who has got a jewellery store online, and they were obviously looking at ways to promote the website. And SEO is an option for them, as it is for everyone. But the thing with SEO, getting your site pages ranked in Google, is very, very long-term game. It's actually, people are attracted to it, particularly newcomers or newbies, as they're called, because they think it's free. But really, it's not free, because you've got to put an awful lot of time in for an uncertain payoff. And there's massive competition. Google are changing the rules all the time. And there's just, quite frankly, a lot of other traffic methods, both free and paid, which are far more productive and far more bigger bang for buck, if you like. So that's what I tend to prefer. I don't do a lot in terms of social media. I have got a Twitter and Facebook profile, and I just post blog updates on there, but it's just all passive stuff. I don't actively use that. But there's a number of other strategies which I use, sort of content syndication and joint ventures and affiliates and that kind of stuff, which really are quite powerful, and those are the ones that I mainly use in my business.
Okay, we'll look at those in a bit more detail, if that's okay, later on. I've been reading your blog extensively coming up to this interview, and there's a load of great stuff on there. Your posts are getting quite a fair amount of comments and shares. Why do you think what you're writing resonates so well with your audience? Is it because you're basically solving their problems and sharing some of your personality?
Well, I hope so, yeah. And I think it is important to share a bit of personality, because, you can get a big corporate sort of giant, if you like, and they seem very formal in their communications. You don't really know who's behind the blog posts or the articles. So actually putting a person forward and injecting some personality into your business can be a very good thing. So I hope that's something that I do as well. Certainly try and do that. But basically I just try and follow those guidelines. So I write about things that are in my head, but I always think, is this going to help other people? And that's where, if you go through my blog, you'll see some articles have less likes and shares and comments than others. So obviously some things appeal to people more than others. But I always try and pick things that appeal to people and will help people. So if you keep that in mind, that's when you're going to get those likes and shares and comments.
You're listening to the Content Champion podcast, showcasing high-quality content across the web.
Let's move on to product creation, because I guess the blog came out of your core business, which is making and selling high-quality products. Some of them are informational products, some of them are video software. What strategies are you using to create these? Where do you get the ideas for your product creation from?
Well, there's different sides. So really, there's software products, and which I've been getting into quite a lot recently, which is a brilliant model. I really recommend it to a lot of people. And also information products. So for the information products, it's really, again, demand driven. So I have, for example, a membership site, Gain Higher Ground membership. And what that does is try and sort of fast track people through the struggle I had. So I created that with my mindset was, if I could have one product, one training course, which would have got me to where I am now, starting from scratch, without all the bumps in the road and without all the problems and mistakes I made and all of that kind of thing, then what would it be? And that's what I've tried to create. As you improve your knowledge in a particular niche, one thing to do is try to think back where you were, and then create a product to fast track your progress from that point to where you are now. Does
that's
that
a good idea. Yeah, it's a very good idea.
Yeah. So that's because the reality is that most people's journey is the same. Whether you're, I don't know, a cyclist or a marathon runner, or you're doing a triathlon, there's products in all those sort of areas, or whether you're, you want to start an online business or an offline business or whatever, there's many common challenges that people have, and it's those common challenges that can be addressed by a product. So you always want to be selling into demand and thinking about that. The other side of things really is on software, and what I do there is really get ideas from the web. So my software is all based around either marketing or sort of web design type stuff. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I've got a piece of software called, I mentioned it earlier, Spybar, which allows you to browser add-on. So what that allows you to do is go to a WordPress site, click the button, and it will tell you what plugins and theme that site is running. So you can reverse engineer other people's sites just with one click of the button in like 2 seconds. And that actually came out of a free tool that's online. So that functionality is already being done for free online. But I thought, well, it's a bit slow to go to this website all the time, type in the domain name and then wait for the results. Wouldn't it be better if there was just a browser button that you could press once and have the results instantly? So in that case, all I did was duplicate an existing idea, but made it slightly better and to save people time. And that enabled me to sell it, and it's sold extremely well. So it's not always, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You just got to make things slightly better. And you don't underestimate that. Do not underestimate that, because you can really blow the doors off with sales. Just by creating something which is slightly better, And if you think about mobile phones or, even hardware like computers or indeed software, that's been done many times. There's very few brand new ideas, but the ideas which go on to become really popular products are just maybe slightly better. People who created them have just thought about the customer need a little bit more. So it's not always that hard. It's just you've got to get into that mindset. Another piece of software that I've put out, for example, is I went to Amazon and I saw, you might have seen on Amazon how you can, when you buy something, they say customers who bought this also bought, and you can add another book to your order or another product. And of course they do that because it's so profitable. So I took that and put it in a WordPress plugin. And I put some other features in there as well, which hooked up to Facebook and that kind of thing. And that did really well as well. So it's just that sort of thinking. So it's keeping your eyes open, really. And it doesn't even have to be on the internet. Quite often you might be in a store, or you might see an ad on a billboard or on the train or wherever. And anything like that, if you've got your sort of marketing producer, product creator hat on, then you will come up with a lot more ideas, and you'll start to get more ideas. And there's no magic to it. There's no eureka moment like Archimedes sitting in the bath. It's just getting in that mindset. And it does take a while. Of course it does, so don't expect it to happen overnight. But if you keep that hat on, it will happen. And really anyone can do that, I think, if you just consistently think like that and work at it.
Are you a programmer yourself, or you're outsourcing your software product creation?
Yeah, I don't program, so I get it all outsourced. Yeah, so you can use sites like Odesk or Elance. Those are my favourites. There's also many others like freelancer.com and so on.
So does that have its pitfalls? How do you find good outsourcers, really?
Yeah, well, give you an idea on costs, first of all. For software, the cheapest job I've ever had done is probably just less than $100, so maybe $80 or $90, I think, probably. The most expensive job I've ever had done is $900. And the average, I'd say, is probably $300. There's WordPress plugins that are very simple that would cost you $90, and there's WordPress plugins which are incredibly complicated. If anyone knows something like Optimize Press, for example, or a product like that, that's going to cost thousands and thousands, right? But the ones I like are quite simple. If you've got this sort of one solution for one problem mindset, that really sells well, because people can see instantly what the issue is, how the product helps solve it, and they just buy it. Whereas if you have lots of features and benefits, sometimes it can get a bit confusing. But yeah, I mean, you have to keep in mind that if you do outsourcing right, it's a win-win, because if you're in a developed country, Canada, UK, US, Australia, and so on, then the price levels are very different to where the outsourcers typically are. So I've hired in sort of India, the Philippines, countries like that. So I had a programmer in India, and I think he was in a fairly sort of smallish town. Now, in India, the average income is extremely low. So if he's doing a job for $300, which takes him 3 weeks, and maybe he's got 3 or 4 of those on the go at one point, that's sort of $1,200, maybe $1,500 or something like that per month. Now that is not that far away from Western sort of wages. You know,
sure.
If you've got a manual job in the US or in the UK or, you know, a country like that, I mean, it's probably less than, but it's not a million miles away. So can you imagine that for somebody in India, they can do, if they've got the skill set, they can, you know, relatively, they can earn an awful lot of money. So it might not seem a lot to us, but actually, you know, you can, you know, there's a lot of leverage there for both parties. But you've got to be a bit careful with outsourcing, because like anything, there are bad quality designers and all of that kind of thing, and programmers or whoever you hire.
It's all tied in with the leap of faith thing again, isn't it? You've really got to come up with your idea and then really trust the people you're going to work with, and you know, hopefully it will pay off.
You have, yeah, but I mean, it's not, you know, flying by the seat of your pants and hoping for the best. I mean, there are specific things you can do when you hire outsourcers to make sure the job is a success. And the people who fail or have bad experiences, 9 times out of 10 haven't done those. So, of course, you can have bad luck. We can all have bad luck, you know, and get a dodgy job done once in a while. But really, the vast majority of the time, you should be pleased with what you get if you follow the guidelines and use, you know, understanding how the outsourcing process works.
Sure. Okay. Now, sort of looking at the selling part of your product business, what part does content play in that? How do you write your own email series, your own sales letters, your own squeeze pages and things like that?
Yes, I do actually. I mean, out of the sort of 10 plus products I've created, there's only one which, there's 2 really that I have had help with in terms of the copy. But really, I tend to do it myself. Of course, you don't have to. It's another job you can outsource. Someone like yourself, I'm sure, is going to be a lot better than the job I'd do. But you can do it yourself. And, you know, I'm not going to go on too much about copywriting because you know a lot more than me on that.
Well, no. I mean, it's just, the thing is here, the distinction is I've written literally hundreds of sales letters for people with their own products, and I've never written one for myself.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is, first of all, you look at proven products that have already sold well. Then you know the copy is good on those products, right? On those sales pages. So look at those, break them down, analyze them, and use inspiration from there. So there's certain formats for headlines, like finally the secret revealed, or discover the hidden strategies in this, or, you know, there's certain sort of template emails. You can use those. That don't reinvent the wheel, you know, pay attention to them. And, you know, if you do that and then you look at the story that they tell, the kind of benefits that they're pushing, and just, you know, keep coming back to it. And it will take a while, but if you want to write your own copy, that's the way to do it, really. It's different for information products to software products, I think. I mean, with software products, it's easier because all you've got to do is sort of explain how the product works, and people can see the benefits from themselves because it's just a useful tool that they can use. Whereas with an information product, you've really got to push the end result that they will get after they've consumed and implemented the material. So I think the information product stuff can be a little bit, not more tricky, but less easy, let's say, than the software side.
And I was reading an excellent post on your blog about sales funnels and obviously the importance of an email list within that. How does your sales funnel work? Do you drive people to a squeeze page? They then sign up for the list. You then have an email marketing series, or does it change for each product that you put out? It does
change. So basically, the end goal. Let's take a step back. The end goal in my business is to build a list, because that's the main asset you'll ever have. It's the most valuable asset and the thing that generates you residual income month after month. So it's to build that list. Now, there's a lot of sort of complexity, and people talk a lot of sort of jargon and confusion about how to build lists. But for anyone listening on the call who might have been confused by this, I can tell you there's only two ways to build a list, okay, or grow a list. It's only two ways. And the first way is to give something away for free. The second way is to sell something. So if you look at the first option, giving away something for free, this could be a free ebook or a sign up for a newsletter, and that could be on a squeeze page or the opt-in form on your blog, for example. Okay. The second way is you actually create a product and you sell it, and then when the people buy it, those customers go onto your list. So there's two ways to build it, and I do both. I recommend that other people do both as well. But there are pros and cons, for doing either and all that kind of thing as well. But that's the main goal. So for the squeeze page, opt-in form, newsletter side of things, then people can sign up, and I'll probably drive the traffic using content syndication, maybe guest posts, for example, where you write articles and you publish on other people's blogs. I might be giving away some small products for free to other people's customers or in their membership site. It might be a bit of paid traffic as well. So things like solo ads, even pay-per-click, things like that. Facebook ads, all sorts of different ways you can do that. But on the product side, the advantage of having a product is that you can also outsource the traffic, because if you've got a product, then you can offer commission to other people to promote it. In other words, you can get affiliates or do joint ventures. And that's what I do a lot of as well. So pretty much all of the products I sell, I will do my best to get affiliates and joint ventures to promote them. So I'll give them a commission. So anywhere between 50% and even 100% I've actually done in some cases. But usually, 50% or 75% as a top end. And they will promote the product, drive the traffic to my sales page. When people buy, they'll get onto my list. And of course, that's very valuable because you're putting customers on your list.
We're really saying you don't really need Google, you don't really need SEO if you're doing blog commenting and article syndication and JVs and getting affiliates on board. You're driving them to one page where you're selling your products, and you collect their emails, and you then have a series of follow-up emails to sell to the people who didn't buy first off, and then you're up and running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I personally wouldn't ever look really at SEO. There are exceptions to that. So if you're a local business consultant and you're trying to rank for restaurants in Dunstable, for example, then SEO is probably...
I think that's one of my clients.
Right. So it's very, very good because, that's a very, very uncompetitive little niche, small town in a specific industry, restaurants. So that's where SEO can be useful. But if you're looking at big markets, you can be forever. You spend an awful lot of money on outsourcing SEO, or an awful lot of time or an awful lot of money on software that never really delivers the results. So it's much easier to do content syndication, and that could be all sorts. So I was consulting also with somebody in the parenting niche recently, and one of the things she was doing was actually using Facebook. So she had a free guide on her products, basically. It was just a free ebook. And what she was doing was approaching other people who had large followings on Facebook and saying, hey, look, I'm in a related industry to you. Do you think your subscribers would be interested in my free ebook? And a lot of them said yes. So they shared with their Facebook followers a link to the ebook, and this was generating, it obviously varies, but there's days when she was getting sort of 140 visitors per day. Okay. Now that's just going out there, being proactive, searching for related Facebook pages and getting them to share content. And of course, if people run a Facebook page, they're quite keen on getting content. Okay. So this is the other thing with content marketing that we talk about, is that always look for opportunities where other people are struggling for content. So some of the things I've done is people have had membership sites and they're not quite sure, they're always hungry for more content for their membership site. So I might create some, or I have created some, which has gone into their membership site.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but to get that content, people have to subscribe at my squeeze page. They get it for free, but they have to sign up to my list. And that's very, very valuable, because my experience with that is that you're not going to add thousands of people in one go, or even hundreds sometimes, to your list, but you'll get a good solid handful. And remember, each one of those is a proven customer because they've come from a membership site.
Sure.
So it's really very valuable. So you can just, if you create one piece of content, this is what I mean by content syndication, like an ebook. Think how you can get that ebook in front of as many people as possible. And if you can help people out as well by giving it to their membership site, or you can get that ebook, rewrite it and use it as an article in somebody else's newsletter or e-zine, or on their website, then do that. And I've done loads of that, and that's what I mean by content syndication. So you've got a piece of content you created, try and syndicate it, spread it out in as many places as you can. And that's really very powerful. So if you can help solve other people's content problems, you'll do very well, and you'll build your list with a good, solid subscriber and often customer base.
Okay, so you've given like a mini plan really for how to create products and how to sell them and where to get traffic from. If I'm thinking about starting up a business, a products related business, today, and I'm listening to this call, what advice would you give me? What one piece of advice is to where to start?
First thing is, like, rule number one is always try and sell into demand. So the internet, and probably the offline world as well, is a graveyard for products that don't sell, because people haven't really thought them through, or they're too avant-garde, they're too off the wall. So, don't try and think you need to come up with the next Facebook or the next Google or something, brand new. Just be looking at what people are already buying and sell into that demand with something that's slightly different, slightly better. So that's my first piece of advice, okay? And then start small, keep it simple, don't get too ambitious to start with, and just try and make those connections with people that can help sell your product. So the great thing about doing an interview like this, for example, is that, where are you going to publish this? Let's look at this. Where is this going to be published, Loz?
This is going first off on my blog, then it's going on iTunes, the BlackBerry Network, Stitcher Radio, Zune. It will then go on all my social networks. I'll revisit it and come back to it and tweet about it and, put it on LinkedIn and places like this again in future. When I think it needs a bit more attention, or if it's timely to do that. And also then there's the possibility that you'll share it with your social media platforms and some of your audience. So from that point of view, podcasting is an excellent traffic strategy.
Exactly, yeah. So that's fantastic. So basically that benefits both parties, you and I, and the audience, we hope, because hopefully people listening like the content and find it useful. So it's a win-win-win, and the more of those you can create, the better. So one thing I did on my blog was a lot of interviews like this. I interviewed other people, and the other concept I'd say is just keep in mind what I like to call the traffic escalator. So this is where you start with very weak traffic strategies, and you look to always leverage them so you can escalate them higher into more powerful ones. So I'll give you an example. Back in 2010, I think I was following a guy online, and I commented on his blog. Joseph Archibald, his name is. I commented on his blog a few times just because I genuinely liked his comment. And he sort of, the thing with blog comments is people don't often read their emails, but everyone reads their blog comments. Okay, it's like not everyone reads their emails, but everyone reads a text on a mobile phone, because people want to know what people are saying, right? Even the mega gurus want to know that. So doing blog commenting won't generate you a massive amount of traffic in itself, but it's a great icebreaker to make yourself known, get on the radar of somebody else you want to connect with. And then after that, I sent them an email and said, hey, look, I've been commenting on your blog a bit, and I really like your stuff. Would you be able to spare 60 minutes for an interview, okay, on Skype? So I did an interview. I published that on my blog. In fact, it's still there. Way back, you have to scroll right back, but it's still there. And I basically then sort of, having worked with him, I had a better relationship, and we've gone on to do a lot of things. So I've actually supported him, but he's actually supported me. So he's mailed for my products and been an affiliate and actually driven a lot of traffic to me. So most people would just, a lot of people just think, right, blog commenting, I'll just comment on 50 blogs a day and that's it. But it's much better if you can be targeted and really go after genuine people you like and use that blog comment as an icebreaker to develop the relationship. And then you go up and up and up until they're a joint venture partner.
And I guess the key to this is people used to look at internet businesses as a sort of magic holy grail, but they're no different than bricks and mortar businesses. You're dealing with real people at the basic level, and the relationships you have with them are going to be your success or your failure.
Exactly, yeah. So even if you use, let's say you don't want to do any joint ventures, which is fine, you don't have to. Let's say you just want to do paid traffic, okay? Or even SEO, okay? If you can get that working, then great. But you do that and you've got all this traffic coming to your site, you still need to build a relationship with the people to sell something, okay? You still got to do that. So even if you've got an ad on the sidebar of your blog, they're not going to click on it unless the article is good on the left-hand side. Do you know what I mean? So or if you've got an email sequence, you need to have good emails. And really, there's no need to sort of get worried about it or think it's really difficult. We're all used to typing emails to our friends, so it's just the same kind of process, right? So forget about numbers and just think about people a little bit. You're absolutely right. It's not that different to actually the offline world and traditional conventional business.
I'm going to wrap up now by drawing everyone's attention to your great free ebook, which I've downloaded myself and recommend, and your bonus training, which is available on your blog. Can you remind us all where we can find you online, please, and where we can get those?
Absolutely. It's gainhigherground.com. Gainhigherground.com.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
This is what I like to call the PS question, where I ask content marketing and blogging experts if they've got one advanced traffic strategy or content marketing strategy they can share with us. So over to you if you can help in that regard, please.
We've talked a lot about different traffic strategies already, so hopefully people get the general idea. One specific one of many that you can use would be to think about creating a product and offering that product as a bonus or an upsell for somebody else's product. So in particular, if you know somebody who's maybe a guru, or they're doing well, or they're very dominant in the niche, so you know that their next product is going to sell quite a lot, why not approach them and say, hey, would you like to use my product as an upsell to yours? You can do a deal with them. So you get a small commission, or you can even let them have all of the commission, okay, and use that product as if it was theirs. The advantage of that is that you're going to put buyers, before people can get that product, they have to sign up for your list. Very, very powerful, and something that I've done, and it's a great way to get passive traffic and customers onto your list. And of course, customers are the most valuable type of subscriber you can have.
Well, that's a fantastic tip, and I'm really grateful for your time today, and I hope everyone found as much value as I did in what you've had to say, Rob, so thank you very much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and I hope people listening in as well got some good value as well. Everything we talked about, or I've certainly from my side, and I know from you as well, Loz, I mean, it all works, right? So you just
definitely
got to take those small leaps of faith, keep going, small consistent action, and it's hard to fail if you do that. That's what I'll say, but you have to do it. If you don't, you'll be back spinning your wheels.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks again, Rob. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Yeah, great to speak to you, Loz.
So there we have it, guys. That was session 9 of the Content Champion podcast. Thanks again to Rob Cornish of gainhigherground.com for an excellent interview. Don't forget, folks, it's the first ever Content Champion Award. So get your entries in at contentchampion.com/awards. And until next time.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the Content Champion.